Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I am your host. And today's episode, I'm talking with Adam White from Dorset Bottega. Adam runs a design and construction company based in Brisbane and have been doing that for 7 or 8 years and had a pretty extensive career in carpentry and cabinet making and doing some furniture design prior to all that. So he had some pretty decent skills prior to starting the landscaping side of things. He also talks about how fortunate he was with his parents because his old man was pretty handy at building things and his mum was really creative and they both passed those skills along. And it was great hearing how Adam's, when he wanted to start the business, he set about a plan of what he wanted to do, and that was to create beautiful gardens for nice people. And that mantra comes up a few times throughout the chat, and it's obvious that he's working towards doing that. And he talked about how he won't take on certain jobs because he hasn't got a passion for it, and that's not going towards his goal of creating a beautiful garden for nice people. So it's either not going to be a beautiful garden or they're not nice people. So it's good to see that he's made a goal and he works towards it. And it's not just the clients who he's looking to have nice people who he works for, but his staff. He's really caring and focused on the type of people that works in the business and that they're good people as well. So he's looking to, once they're in there, really look after them and create a great environment for people to work. So it seems pretty cool how he's doing that. And the reason I got him on the podcast was because a listener recommended him, and I hadn't heard of the business before, but they do some pretty cool stuff. And on his Instagram page, I saw a video where he was doing a bit of an introduction about himself. And yeah, that was pretty cool because he talks about how he would get a bit overwhelmed with all the ideas that were in his head. So he trained himself to clear his mind and then work through a process of being able to tick things off one by one. So I asked him about how he went about doing that. So that was a pretty good part of the chat as well, and something I was looking to ask him about, because that's something I reckon a lot of people have trouble with, getting too many ideas of trying to do too many different things at once, and you get a bit overwhelmed. So it was good hearing how he went about doing that, and it makes sense what he talks about. So yeah, I absolutely loved having this chat with him. So I reckon there's a lot to take away from this chat. So hopefully you enjoy this chat with Adam White. Adam, thank you very much for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
Thanks, Joel. I really appreciate you having a chat with me today. Look, it's a long story for me. I'll try and keep it short. I grew up down south on a daffodil farm. I've always done creative things, had really creative parents, really lucky with that. Dad was always building stuff in the shed. He was always gardening. So was Mum, building stone walls. Mum used to mow a 5-acre plot herself with a push mower. So my love of gardens started like that. So pretty raw, really. And then through the times, I started off, did cabinet making, carpentry, so many different things, all sorts of designing. So furniture design inside and out. And then probably about 7 or 8 years ago, we bought a wonderful acreage property in extremely rundown condition in the Bayside here in Brisbane. And I decided to just stop work altogether for about 6 or 8 months to, I guess, just to really set myself into renovating and getting back to what I really wanted to do. I'd been caught up for a few years prior doing stuff that wasn't particularly aligned with me for my soul, I guess, and the passionate side of me. So I sort of spent 6 months really sort of thinking what I want to do and trying to get my mindset correct. And then through the renovation process, and because I've renovated probably and built altogether about 17 different houses for myself. So I guess I submersed myself in the renovation of this place, acreage. And then through that process, I just fell back in love again with outdoor spaces, got tired of being inside, of the indoor carpentry and cabinet making stuff. And I guess renewed my love of plants that I've always had. But, like all of us in times through your life, you sort of go in and out of what you can do because you've got families and you've got a lovely wife and whatever it may be, or a partner. And so same for me. So this old property reinvigorated me. And so basically I started out again about 7 years ago, decided I want to complete change, then just tried to put together everything I'd learned over the last sort of 35 years and picked all the things that I really wanted to do and set a goal and started a business. Started off just with myself and another young lady who used to help me with the botanical side. And we're very fortunate because I was so, I guess to start with, I didn't really care about money. I didn't care about All I wanted to do was create beautiful things for nice people. And I was fortunate enough in the acreage area where we are in Bayside, there's plenty of people looking for help. And that's kind of how I started, just locally, building gardens for people, beautiful fences, walls, driveways, and doing little hand sketches and plans. So very, very sort of childlike at the start, but the quality of work was always paramount for me to get the detail right. And a lot of European inspired works really has been, I guess, the driving factor behind Dorset Bottega. So I guess, so we started with two, myself and the young lady, Bridget, who's a fabulous young lady. And now over the last 5 or 6 years, business has just slowly grown and grown. And now we've got 12 full-timers and, 20 odd contractors. But predominantly the ethos of the business hasn't changed. We try and look at a space, and then I try and listen to the clients, listen to all their needs, their family, they got dogs, they got kids. What's the elevation like where they are? What's the aspect? Which way does it face? Do they have any drainage issues? What do they really want the space for? And then I put my spin onto it, and then we share perhaps a few Pinterest boards, and sometimes I'll get some proper 3D CADs done. But generally speaking, I usually like to just do some hand sketching and then share some images and show some of my previous work. And that's kind of how we got started, because I guess all I was interested in was doing really nice work for nice people. So the business kind of just grew from there. So, and I've just been fortunate that all the things that I've learned along the way that I actually liked have all come together now in this particular guise in this business, and allows me to kind of do all the things I'm really good at, and allows me then to employ and work alongside, shoulder to shoulder, with all the people that are better than me at lots of the other things. And I can tell you there's a lot of things that everyone's better than me at. It's a matter of just having the right people in the team. And yeah, I guess that's kind of how I started. So really very passionate and emotional driven to just create nice work, man.
So was that the goal? Like you said, 7 years ago, you set a goal and set out to achieve it. So was that just to do nice gardens for nice people?
It was, yeah, just to do gardens. And also we do I was doing a lot of smaller structures, and then over time we've just kind of developed into big structures. Now we do barns and all sorts of things. But yeah, the whole reason for me having the business has never changed. And the reason why I don't want to get any bigger is that sometimes people lose track, and you lose why you really started, and it becomes something that it shouldn't be. And I guess we're at the stage now where we're at the absolute limit of, we can still produce, and I can really enjoy the relationship with clients and still squeeze out all the beauty out of the jobs and keep it personal. So we're at that level where we can't grow anymore, because it just won't be what I set out to do.
Yeah. Yeah. The passion just has to be zapped out of it if you get too big, because you just have to get jobs to turn over money.
Yeah. So. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I agree in that, there's been times when, I've thought about and I've been offered, oh, you can do all this and you can do all that. But, we say no a little bit these days. And I guess we're in a fortunate position that are kind of, unless I know that I can really make a fantastic change within their budget, perhaps there's people that will be able to help them more than I can. So I try and be really honest and transparent about all that, because you really got to stick to what you're good at and what comes from the heart. And for me, that's most important, because otherwise, like probably all of us in the industry, we've done some jobs where you weren't really connected to them. It doesn't mean you don't do a great job, but it just means that, perhaps that if there was an opportunity to do a job that was a little bit more, aligned to what you really love to do, which therefore means you're going to do your best work. So that's kind of, we've been fortunate enough to head in that direction, where I'm happy to help out and offer advice, and then offer somebody different if we're not the right person, because it's not about numbers, and I never want it to be about numbers.
So how do you go about having that many staff working for you, and coming from a cabinet baking background, with the other people, getting the finishes and details right?
Pretty good, because so I've got about 3 or 4 licenses that we carry. So over time, I've gone through everything from carpentry to structural landscaping, and now we run under a full builder's license. So it's been a long journey, and I guess I've done everything, all the hands-on stuff for so many years on all the different places I've worked on ever since I was sort of 15. So I guess jack of all trades, master of none. But for me, I guess I know exactly where everything needs to be. I know how it all works because I've done it. I haven't always done it to the perfection of some of the guys I've got now. I've got a wonderful Irish bricklayer who his masonry skills are just amazing. Like I've tried to slowly handpick people that, as I said, were a lot better than me, and then together we become a wonderful team. So I try and I try and foster the approach where there's no you and me, there's just us, and we're all working for the client, and we're really just one big team, almost like a little tribe. And I've got 6 apprentices, and they're all under 26. So that can be, challenging as well, managing lots of young men and trying to give them enough scope to learn, but also keep them in the right channel, which can be a little bit challenging. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess for me, I've just grown into knowing what I need to get done, and then just trying to make sure that we all work together and we just try and create something that's beautiful. And whether it's stonework, it's brickwork, it's block work, it's concreting, it's drainage, no matter what it is, creating arbors, we basically look at it, we strip it all back down to the basics and just build it piece by piece so that it's all digestible. I guess I'm sure lots of the other guys and girls in the trade will understand that everything seems a bit daunting when you look at a major plan. But then when you break it down to just task by task, right? Today we're doing footings, tomorrow we're going to pull some levels, then Thursday we'll do drainage, and then we're going to get some more fill in. If you break it down and you stick to the plan, everything is easier to digest.
Yeah, people say get overwhelmed with like an expensive project because it's a big dollar figure, but it's literally
Yeah,
no different to a smaller project. It's just bigger amounts of the same thing. Like you're not,
absolutely.
it's not a different job that you're doing for that project. It's all just, like you say, the same pro. You just got to break it down into processes.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I think the other thing that I guess the feedback we get from our team is that people don't really understand how much hard work goes into landscaping and how physical it is. Obviously, we got machines and stuff, but still a lot of it is grunt work, and it's a really, really task-driven, industry. And I think that there's a lot of respect from our clients that come out. It's one thing to look at pretty pictures and then we tear their yards apart, and then they look out the window and see everyone just going like the clappers. And then I think that they look inside and have a renewed respect for the physicality of our trade and the dedication and the amount of shit that you have to go through and the dirt you have to move and the issues that come up on site to get that beautiful Instagram shot at the end. So,
It's kind of ironic looking at a finished project when you think of that amount of work that goes into it and destroying the backyard.
yeah.
But going back to when you're talking about you've got people better than you that you employ, that's an awesome thing for you. Not only you to keep improving your skills, but I'd imagine your apprentices don't realise how lucky they are to have that many skilled people around doing everything within landscaping.
Yeah, possibly. I do try and foster that kind of feeling that, I like to make everyone feel included. And I think our team, I guess, to give you a little bit more background, is our team sort of went from 2 to 4 to 6. And what's happened is that a lot of the young guys have got other friends and other mates who have been working in the industry, didn't get along with the boss. Their qualifications weren't being recognized. No one was doing any RPL with them. There was no real help. And I guess the bosses can be a little bit of a hothead, and there's no real family environment. And I guess when the boys talk to their mates and they're working from someone else, most of our team has come from other places because of what we're trying to provide. Because I want what we're doing to go long past me. In 2 years we'll have 6 trained men that can hopefully run their own games down the track, and that's really one of the things that I'll be most proud of, is to have those 6 or 7 boys and girls to be able to start their own business with my help and give them plenty of work and cut them loose. So I guess that's now become the real goal for me, is to foster that complete family teamwork approach. So yeah, I think we still have our run-ins from time to time, but I think generally the team does appreciate, not just me, but they appreciate everyone that they work for and they work with. So I really, as I said before, I don't, it's not about being too directive. It's about trying to everyone understand what we're trying to achieve, and then everyone plays their part. It's not rousing on him and rousing on her and this has got to happen and that's got to happen. It's paint a picture at the start of the project, go over all the hand-drawn plans with everyone, set some basic tasks to get everyone started, and then really just let people sort of fall into the project and embrace it a bit rather than, just boss, because it's not how I like to work. I've been in environments before. I've had 400 odd people working for me, and it just becomes unmanageable and very impersonal, and I just can't stand it. So I guess, where we're at now is, for the boys is just the important thing for me is just that they feel like no matter what's going on at home and in their other parts of life, when they come to work, myself and the other leading guys, we're always stable. We're always the same. We might be a bit hard sometimes, but we're always fair, and we love all the boys. We love, like, just, from my wife to the people that do our socials to everyone works as a team. And there's some real camaraderie on site, especially because most of the boys hang out after work together because they're all mates. It's kind of an unusual situation that that I've just been, really fortunate to be part of, that we've all come together as a group. So,
yeah, and that's an awesome thing for them to have mates who they get to go to work with, and whether they've come along because they're already mates or they became mates while they're working, just makes it so much easier when you've got people at work who you get along with. So if you're doing a hard job, it makes it a bit more, easier to do.
Oh, absolutely, and it adds to the competitiveness too.
Yeah.
So if there's a lot of barrows to push, there's a bit of barrow racing, which is always good.
Yeah, I love getting in on that as well. I love pushing back.
Yeah, it was only about 8 days ago. I'm not sure if we mentioned this earlier on a chat, but it'd been a while, been probably 6 or 8 months since I'd pushed barrows, and I picked 37-degree day, and I had a couple of boys off at TAFE, so I was on the barrow for 9 hours, just with me and a small excavator, just running barrows down the sideway of a house. And I really enjoyed it, to be honest. But by the afternoon, I was pretty cooked.
Yeah,
But when I got home, I had that real sense of pride, that you can still get out there and you can still crack it. And it was great, man. But it was a shockingly hot day, 37, and really humid up here. It was great.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I love that. What size crews do you run per job?
At the moment, to give you an idea, we've got 4 projects running. I've got a carpenter, an earth mover, and another couple of lads up at one of our jobs at Mount Tambourine. I've got another chippy and another one of our apprentices doing some decking over at Ascot. And pretty much I try and move people around. We're also doing a beautiful big acreage job over at Burbank, a lot of recycled brick driveways and big antique lights and some pretty amazing stuff. That one's probably got 4 guys on it. So I do try and sometimes, if we really need to push at the start of a job, like, we'll put everyone, so there'd be sort of 10 of us on there straight up. But generally, I've kind of find between sort of 3 and 5 is a really good number, obviously with someone in control.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's something we've been talking about a fair bit on the podcast about the right number of people per site, but it really varies, like you said. Like, you got 4 on one site and 2 on another. So it really depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we're just doing machinery, if we're doing a lot of excavation, we're doing a lot of footings at the moment up at Tambo, so we need someone there constantly just to be watching machinery, someone else cleaning up, someone else maybe setting some heights. So it really just depends from job to job. But I always make sure that at least once a week that all the boys are together, so that, it's kind of like a mateship thing, that it's a bit more larrikinism then, and it's a little bit more fun. Smoko's pretty solid. They clean out the local wherever, the hamburger shops, and then it's good to split them up a little bit so they all get a break from whoever as well. So
yeah. And do you have everyone meet on site in the morning, or is some meet at a depot, or how's that work?
Yeah, it depends. So usually on a Monday morning, I've got a hard stand at my place. So we've got a few acres here just in Brisbane. And like, if we're starting a new project, especially, I'll start all the boys at the yard. We'll basically pack a standard kit that we think we need for the day to get started. And then we'll all roll out. So, 6 or 7 utes will roll out, and then we'll unload, get started. And then myself and the other leading hand guys will have a chat about what else that we think we may need over the next few days. Obviously, we do a fair bit of planning beforehand. But I guess, as everyone in the industry would know, you can plan as much as you like, but when you get there and you start digging, things change. So if we're midway through a job, the boys just all meet on site of a morning, and generally I'll try and get to every single job every single day and spend some time with the guys on top of, talking to clients and designing jobs and doing everything else, because we're still a pretty small show. So I carry a lot of hats to make sure that the boys, I'm pretty much a servant to the teams, to be honest, Joel.
Yeah.
Whatever the boys need, I just run around and get it. If we've got to fabricate some steel, I'll be down at the fabricators. If we need some, whatever it is that we need, if we need the 18th trip to Bunnings for the day, then I'm happy to do that. So I've got to the stage where I'm happy to serve, to get things done. And really now a lot of the guys, they can tell me what they need. And part of my role now is to make sure that everyone's got what they need.
Yeah. And are you building just your own designs, or you do other people's designs as well?
No, look, at this stage, the last 7 years, I've only ever built our designs. So 99.9 of the designs come out of my head. Then if we're doing larger structures and we need engineering and certification and stuff, I get a fantastic Dave Reynolds does all our draftsman work. Then I've got a lovely lady, Rika, who does our engineering, and another Adam who does the certifying. So generally speaking, unless it's probably about half our jobs now will need some type of engineering. But generally speaking, yeah, look, I guess most of the design and they're just images that I've seen in my head over the years. And I think we spoke earlier, I've had trouble over the years trying to capture all these images and to try and slow things down a little bit in my mind to be able to grab onto them and then create them for real. So that's been a real challenge. But yeah, it's really just what comes out of my head and how I communicate that with the clients and then with the team. And it's a bit of a job site joke, is that don't worry about the plans, just ask Adam, because everything's in his crazy head.
Well, now, yeah, you're saying that, there's something I haven't done this before, but I want to play an Instagram video that you did, because I came across you because someone who listens to the podcast recommended you, and then I went onto your page and saw a video you've done, which was awesome and made me want to immediately get in contact with you. So I'm just going to play it.
Sure.
It's not going to be very good for YouTube, but hopefully the audio comes through all right for the podcast. But
I'm currently the owner of two companies, Dorset Bottega and Friendship Tree. Just want to give a little bit of info about my background. Grew up in Melbourne on a daffodil farm, moved to Brisbane when I was about 19. Previous to that, in the hinterland on the Gold Coast. My life has been very creative. My both parents were creative. I grew up in that environment. I was fortunate to have a wonderful childhood where there was lots of dreaming and adventure. And as I've got older, I've learned to train my thoughts. My thoughts used to get away from me. I've got a crazy mind. It never stops. It's a constant reel of pictures and ideas. And over time, what I've learned to do is to slow it down a little bit, become more obsessive and more disciplined to create and grab those ideas out of my head and make them a reality. It's taken time. I'm 51 now, and it's only been over the last 6 or 7 years I've really been able to harness that creative process.
So being able to train your mind to not bounce around from idea to idea is something I certainly need to do. So how did you go about doing that?
I think I become disciplined, I've always been pretty disciplined, but the way I guess personally I did it is I tried to add more discipline in all the other parts of my life. So diet. I guess if you want to go right to the nitty gritty, because this is a lot of things that people overlook. So I try and get my sleep right. I can be selfish with my sleep. I get up at 4 in the morning, 4:30 a.m. So I need to be in bed by 8:30. So I prioritize my sleep, and I've learned to do that and not feel bad. And, the kids are, oh, Dad's an old man, he's going to bed. But then when I'm up at 4 a.m., that house is quiet. There's no one up. So for me, it's been that discipline. So getting up early, eating well, sleeping well, and then I guess thinking about my thoughts differently and doing a lot of journaling and trying to break things down so that instead of running off like I have done in the past and chasing the shiny new idea and the new creative design, I try and say, Adam, this is really when you were thinking really clear yesterday, these are the ideas that you wrote down. This is how I think we can get it done. This is me talking to myself. So I do a fair bit of self-talk. Even in the truck, I'll talk to myself about, before I step into a meeting, if I've just had if I've just been with clients and then I'm on site and then I've got to go and meet some new clients, I actually talk to myself, which has been, very helpful to me to basically say, Adam, get you in the right frame of mind, think about the next task at hand, how you just need to relax and be yourself. Don't take the frustration that you might have taken from somewhere else and the concrete didn't turn up and, Josh hasn't turned up for work, whatever it might be, and recalibrate, relax, and then just be yourself. And I guess just trying to strip that back and take a deep breath and just concentrate on one thing at a time has really helped me. And I tend to try and get all the hardest things that I think are the hardest things during the day done really early if I can. Any of the frogs that you need to swallow, I try and get them done really early. And then I guess the other thing that's helped is, and it's probably not for everyone, I've been obsessive with my hours. So I've pretty much, I was doing 80, 100-hour weeks for the first 6 years. And the only reason I could do that is because I was eating well, sleeping well. I do a bit of fitness stuff as well. So because I had a bit of scaffolding going on in the background, also I've got a very supportive wife, I guess, and I was so focused on trying to do really good things and also make sure that I was doing the right things for the family, even though I may not have been there as much as they needed me to. I was also setting a foundation for us all to have a life. And I guess when there's an understanding from your whole family that this is why dad's a bit obsessed and this is why dad's doing this and doing that, how I managed to kind of get it all happening was lots of hours and just being that, as I said, just setting those simple goals, like the simple disciplines that sound really easy, right? But how many of us actually do it? Don't drink too much. Don't stay up too late. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't binge on Netflix when you should be doing quotes and doing designs or actually just getting some sleep. So that's how I train myself. And I guess I've turned it a bit into a machine, but a machine that serves for the purpose of running a nurturing, successful business.
And how many hours do you reckon you'd be doing a week now? Work?
Oh, probably 75, 80. So I promised myself I was going to cut back, but it's really difficult when I have a strong moral obligation to always try and do the best we can, and because we're a reasonable sized team, but I do all the quoting, the meetings, the costings, the designs, the follow ups, the proposals, the contracts. I do try and do everything. If I'm going to spend 10 or 11 hours a day on site, I have to then pick up the pieces that I haven't been able to do in the truck during the day. And then I just pick those pieces up overnight and then they fall over into Saturday. And then sometimes they fall into Sunday. Well, I've really tried this year not to fall over into Sunday, but I'm still falling into Saturday. So yeah, still 70 or 80. But my plan is to slowly reduce that because I guess it's probably not sustainable, but to get to where we did and to build the team and to try and please as many clients as we could, it just at some point you've got to decide, are you all in or you're not? And I just decided I was all in and this is just all I'm doing. And I wanted to try and make the best of it. I'm full of gratitude that people like what we do and I don't take that for granted. So I guess my way of giving back is to just give it everything I've got every day. So to me, there is no different days. It's just another day. And then Sundays now is definitely family time. So we go bushwalking or, we'll go and get some lunch with the kids and just hang out with the dogs, whatever it might be. But yeah, I am a little bit of a problem because I get so obsessed that I don't really have an off button. And that's something that I'm learning to.
Yeah, it can be a good thing or a bad thing, the amount of hours you work. Like you said, you're putting that support in place so that your body can support it. So it's not like you get drunk every night and still working till 10 o'clock at night and then getting up at 4. So so what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another person. So as long as you're coping with it and your family's coping with it, it doesn't matter what other people are doing compared to you. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. People say to me, do I think about what other people are doing? And to be completely honest, I don't have time to think about what anyone else is doing. I just worry about what we need to do and make sure we get it done.
Yeah. There's no point like person A only works 40 hours a week because that's what their wife wants them to do. Like,
Yeah.
that's them. Like,
Yeah.
they're already taken. So, be yourself.
Yeah. And also there's so much talk these days about parenting and what's really the right thing to do with your kids and your family and how to be a role model. Well, for me, my role model is that I'm always coherent. They see it's not always me telling them what I'm doing. They actually see that, yep, dad gets up early, dad's gone, dad's always, that they see what I'm doing. So I guess it's more they're seeing a learned behavior. Hopefully they're picking up on that learned behavior, that it's not what I'm telling them, it's actually they're witnessing what I'm actually trying to do. So from my point of view, I guess I'm hoping that from people being a part of that whole process and watching what it takes to start a successful business and to manage it and to try and nurture your people, that there is a big commitment. And it's, I think hopefully my kids will grow up and realize that as they get older and they digest a little bit more about how dad was growing up, that some of those points they'll realize, well, if I'm going to go out and start a business or I'm going to do that, I remember that dad was just like a machine. So that's what I'm going to have to do. So it's not about painting a pretty picture for them. It's saying, if you want these things in life and you want to have good relationships with clients and your workmates, then it takes time and it takes commitment, and you can't be half out in and half out. Otherwise it'll just fall on its ass. So that's kind of how I've been, for better or worse. I try and be, you try and be a good dad and a good partner and all the rest, but none of us are perfect, and me included. But I guess my work ethic is how I try and lead, to make sure that you can pick some faults with me, but you won't pick that I wasn't out there giving it a red hot go.
Yeah. There's a saying I love. I can't remember who I heard it from first, but you just need to be present where your feet are. So if you're at work, you got to focus on work, and if you're at home, you focus on home. So it's a pretty simple thing to do.
It is, yeah, it is, and like I'm still trying to get better at it, and I've still got a ways to go. But like everything, it's like this is just such a journey, and I guess the whole business side of things and the trade that we're in is a learning curve as well, because you're learning how to manage relationships. That's really what it becomes is all day, whether it's clients, it's suppliers, it's your own guys and girls, and even with yourself, especially as I said to you with my self-talk, reminding myself that I need to think better and I need to be like try and improve the way I am. I think I try and push my own buttons so that I'm always just trying to think things through a little bit better. I'm also, mindfulness is something I've really been trying to practice. So if I arrive somewhere and I'm not sure how things are, I don't just run in and start getting stressed. I really just try and always be positive to start with, and then find out why things may not be how I thought they were going to be, and then just slowly break it down from there, because that's something that I'm trying to be better at all the time. And I find that makes a huge difference to the team environment. If the leader is non-reactive, they're pleasant, they know what they need. So I try and be all those things without overreacting. I think overreacting in a situation in a workplace or with clients is, well, it just makes the end result just take too long, and you don't really get a nice result that you could if you're more mindful, you listen more. Yeah, you just react differently. And I guess I've really tried over the last few years to be better at that. And and I hope that shows long term in the team, that they've got someone there, no matter what happens, we can dig through power and bust water pipes every day and do whatever it is we do. But I'll have a good think, and I'll be calm, and I'll make a plan with the boys, and then we'll just get back into it. And I always say that I'm all about problems. So there's going to be problems all day, every day. It's about what we do when the problems arise and how I react. So I know we can always fix the problems. It's just a matter of how we react and how that initial interaction is, so that people don't get really off put. And because it's really easy to blow them out with a couple of words, and it takes half the day to get them all back. So yeah,
that's something I've been working on, I reckon, over the last few years as well. It's not just saying what's in my head as soon as it comes to my head, because usually I'll whether I'll not say anything, and then whether it's later that day or the next day, I'll have changed what my opinion was going to be anyway. So it would have been just a negative thing to have said for no reason at all. So I'm doing the same thing, and just sort of being patient and mindful, like you say, and understanding things. And because if I haven't been on site, I don't know what's happened on there. So yeah, there's reasons why things don't get done as fast as what you think they are.
Absolutely. And that's, you can really then guide the day how it's going to go. So yeah, no, I take my hat off to you, because it's one of the hardest things to do, is be patient and non-reactive, especially when you feel like everything's your baby and you want it to be right. You got to allow. Also, the other thing I've got really good at is I allow people to make mistakes, and whether it's mistakes at TAFE or mistakes on site, or understanding that there's personal problems and mental health and all sorts of things that come into the equation for ourselves and all our workers, and any team that you're in, and even your contractors and your suppliers. You don't know what's going on behind in people's lives. So to be a little bit more compassionate and to listen a little bit more, and not react for anything, because you don't know what's just happened. And I guess for my guys, for young people in the industry, life can be pretty tough, depending on their home life and things. So I guess I just try and provide a stable environment, so that no matter what else is going on, they're not going to come to work and someone's going to start screaming at them, no matter what. I would rather cool off and then talk to them in the afternoon than ever get cranky. I'd rather have a meaningful conversation that is more heartfelt, and rather than just some off the cuff bullshit talk that you wish you never said when you hop back in the truck. So
yeah. Where did the business name come from?
The business name came from the old house that we bought. So the acreage property we bought was an old doctor's surgery originally. It was built in 1896, and it was actually called Dorset, which is obviously the town in England where the doctor was from. And there's a lovely little copper plaque above the front door. And so I was thinking of lots of different names at the start, because I've had quite a few businesses over the years, and the name is quite important, I feel, for me, because it kind of needs to be an interesting persona that people maybe want to ask you questions about. So Dorset is the house, and Bottega is an interesting word, which is a European or Italian word for artisan workshop, where you've got one main collaborator, and that person works with a whole team, whether it be a baker or a saddle maker or some type of person trying to create something beautiful. And Bottega means a place where people work together. So Dorset is the property where it started this new incarnation of this dream of the garden business. And the Bottega is the little bit of, I guess, bespoke part that I've just hooked into the side. And it's a word that people don't hear a lot, especially in the landscaping game. You might hear it if you're shopping in some fancy handbag shops or something. But so it does get a lot of questions, and I'm always happy to sort of clarify. And it did. My wife and I laid in bed for nights jotting down different names of businesses and what we thought we should do. And that was the one that just kind of resonated with us. And also it was real, because we are just a team. We are all just trying to work together. And the house that I started renovating all those years ago was the spark that led me to wanting to get back into doing really beautiful handmade stuff again, rather than just being a part of a big team, like a huge team. So.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. It's good to have a story behind it. I just took over my business. I bought my business off my boss, so I didn't create my name. But prior to that, I'd started a little side thing for cashies. My business was going to be called Gardens by Joel, so not very creative. So yours is a lot more creative than what mine was going to be. So lucky I've gone with InStyle.
Yeah, well, InStyle sounds lovely. So,
have you ever used a business coach throughout all your businesses, or you're still probably self-taught a lot of it?
I've probably been self-taught a fair bit. I was pretty fortunate growing up. I hung out a lot with my dad, and he had a lot of successful entrepreneurial businesses. He also had a lot of failures, so it was a really good learning curve. Like, he went bankrupt back in the 80s when the backside fell out of everything, and there was the big Wall Street crash. So I kind of learnt a lot of the stuff. So I was on the tools from 10 or 11 years old at home with dad. So restoring cars, building furniture, building a house. Dad was always pretty lenient with me, because I was a bit of a loner in a way, because I just loved to build shit. I don't know. That's just how it always was. So I guess I learnt dad's entrepreneurial skills and his ability to make a mistake and not stay mad about it for too long, and then move on. So I watched him rise and fall a few times, which really, I guess, led me to have no fear about it's okay to fail. And if you're trying and your intentions are good and you screw it up, it's not the end of the world, because you can make good again. Whether, you can always apologize and make good and fix things up. So I guess I've always had that mindset where give everything you've got, and if it doesn't quite work the way you thought, it's not the end of the world. And then over the time I have done some leadership programs. So earlier on I did the 7 Habits courses. I did some long leadership courses through another big company, team building stuff. But to be honest, Joel, most of the things I've learned is by doing them wrong and the pain that comes along with that. And then that drives you to be better. So I've done things, I've made a lot of mistakes because I've always tried to push the boundaries and tried to create things that perhaps were a little bit ambitious. And in doing that, made lots of mistakes, and then got really upset about it personally inside, and felt the pain of that, and just gone, why did I do that? And I guess that scarring over time for me has toughened me up enough and allow me to kind of know that you can't always be perfect, but know that no matter what, I'm going to turn up, and tomorrow we'll try and do better no matter what. And I guess that's the mindset, that kind of vision that I have, is to set the goals really high and then just work like hell to try and achieve it, and don't get set back by the kick in the guts that we all get every now and then when things don't go right. And I guess that's what's been my driver, is by making the mistakes and being hurt by it, because I want to do better. That drives me to just keep showing up and just try and keep doing better. So it's kind of been a little bit of guidance along the way, but more of just to suck it and see, and just giving it everything you got and learning. I'm still learning a lot every day. Yeah, it's a crazy journey.
Yeah, it sounds like it gives you a bit of invincibility, though, by going through those mistakes, because then when you're trying to do something again, you know that if something goes wrong, you're going to be fine. You'll bounce back. So it gives you confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. You bang on there. It's a huge thing when you know that whatever you're doing is fixable. It kind of gives you like that extra little bit of superstar thought pattern where you think, well, no matter what, it's going to be okay. And I guess it all comes down to, after making enough mistakes and being able to fix them, you kind of get more confident about your own ability and what you think that the team and yourself can come up with. So we get a lot of jobs where people have asked to do certain projects with half a dozen other builders and people and landscapers, and everyone has turned away. And then we turn up and I say, geez, it's going to be a shitty job, and it's going to get really messy and ugly, and it's going to be noisy, and I'm going to crane those machines in over your roof, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And they look at me and go, so you're going to do it? I'm like, yep, we're going to do it. And then, so that's kind of how we do it sometimes, is just by jumping in, not having all the answers, but know that as we move into it, I'll find the answers, because we'll all learn. So,
yeah. That's it. Yeah. Awesome. Just such a great attitude to have. And yeah, I reckon a lot of landscapers do as well, like just sort of make things up as we go along. It seems to work pretty well. I mean, just sort of entrepreneurship in itself does the same thing, because you can't learn everything before you do it.
No, and we're still learning a lot. Like, even from the social media side of things, we're trying to improve. There's so many facets to trying to be entrepreneurial and trying to follow your dream. It's something that no one can be good at, all those things. You just have to slowly grind away and get a little bit better all the time. And as I said earlier, just try and get some really good people around you who are really good at what they do, and reward them accordingly, and make sure that you all work together. And to me, like, no one thing happens on its own. It's a mixture of the right products, the right people, the right clients, the right weather, even, especially, I know you guys get some crazy weather down there, but last year, I think, you guys might remember, we all had lots of floods everywhere, and Brizzy just got absolutely hammered. So I had jobs there where the river was rising, and we had sites, like 6 or 7 sites open, and things just can get really, really rough and really tough. But you've just got to, and you call them, the brickies are ringing at 5 a.m. and 4 a.m, and are we going to have a go today? And, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that's stressful. But when you stick together, and, a lot of times up here, we'll get out to site, and then we'll get 200 mils in a couple of hours, and we all, the day's absolutely jacked. So, and then we just got to put it all away and come back tomorrow, and regardless of what's happened, start fresh and just get on with it.
Yeah, it's like half a year's worth of Victorian rain in a couple of hours.
Absolutely. And yeah, and it's terrible, man. And it's also hard on the boys too, because wet weather is not good for morale, and
No.
constant week after week of wet weather is really hard on morale, especially say you're working in somewhere that's full of red mud as well. And it's just, everyone's boots are heavy, everyone's filthy, they're waterlogged, they're cold. It's just some burgers and coffee doesn't fix that. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's just got to grit it out. And we all know though that, the sun does come back out up here in Brisbane, and then it gets bloody hot again. So
And then it's wet from your sweat dripping down on the ground.
oh yeah, yeah. The boys, like even my boys are very conditioned, really fit, strong lads, and every now and then we still get some with heat stroke. It's just hard. So we chuck them in the ute, get the aircon on, let them chill down for a bit, plenty of water, and if they're feeling a bit off, we just get them home, because it doesn't matter how good you are when it's that hot and the boys are doing barrows or you're digging footings by hand. Yeah, it can still get to the best of us with those work conditions, and I think, as I said earlier, when clients look out the window and they see everyone just going so hard, and they see the amount of effort and the sweat and everything that goes into it, there is a lot of respect for our industry, especially for those people that perhaps haven't been as practical in their life, more professional, office based. They have a really, really strong respect, and they end up really, really being so nice to our team and coming out and offering cold drinks and pizzas and whatever it might be. It's almost like there's no barrier then. Like there might have been a little bit of client and and workers, contractors going on, but then when the level of intensity and they see how dedicated that the team is, all of a sudden those barriers are just gone, and then everyone is like all together. We even get some clients coming out laying a few blocks with us, because they think it's all exciting. Usually only lasts for about 20 minutes. But hey, it's all good fun, and we promote that sort of stuff. That if people want to come out and push a few barrows and get involved, or want to do some planting, whatever it might be, we're always happy to accommodate that, because it's a novelty for a lot of people to see what we do.
Yeah, and they're going to get a lot more passionate. They're going to love their garden more because they've played a role in helping build it. And that brings us back around again to what you said at the start about those clients looking after you. So you're doing
Yeah,
nice gardens for nice people.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Do you do anything outside of, like you were talking about building how the heat does nothing for morale, or the rain does nothing for morale? Do you do anything outside of work to help with staff morale?
Yeah, we do. We do. Like at Christmas time there, I'm really trying to, rather than just putting drinks on for the boys all the time, which is what we do sometimes. We'll come back to the shed back at my place, and we'll have a few beers, we'll relax, we'll have a chat, and we'll get some Subway. But I've really just recently just trying to promote more of a healthy get together. So what we did recently was I took the boys to one of the local go-kart speed kart places, and we did like a race challenge. There was ended up, I think there was about 20 of us there, and it was a trophy day. So we had barbecue. There's no alcohol involved. And I think the boys were initially thought, oh God, like this is, what are we doing? But when they got out there and the first race hit, they forgot that they didn't need a beer then. They didn't care about that. They were just trying to knock each other off the track and win. And so I guess I was just trying to promote, you can still have a great time, you can get your adrenaline up, you can be competitive, but it also doesn't have to include getting intoxicated and then becoming a problem. And I guess that's something. So this year, like even the middle of the year, we're gonna do something else. Just I'm trying to find adrenaline, whether it's high ropes or we go to indoor pistol range, get the boys, just allow the boys to be boys, but in a controlled environment where it's healthier, then everyone can hop back in the car and drive home safely. So I guess more of that sort of stuff. We also do safety training all together as a group. So we get like St. John's in, and we'll just have it at my house, and we'll just all hunker down for the day, and I'll get food and drinks on, and we'll get a guy to come out so that we can all just as a team have a laugh. And so we try and do things as a group. I try not to send anyone off individually for training or to do anything. If we're going to do something, we're all in. That's supervisors, me, everyone's in. We're all in the one bucket, and that's what we're doing today. So I guess in that way, that's kind of what I'm trying to promote is, and also open. I like the fact that that there's the boys are pretty open with me about how they're feeling, about where they're at with their mental health and what's going on in their life. And I guess to me, that's kind of really important to have those conversations to make sure that, like with me, nothing's off the table. I'd rather us talk about it and have that closeness so that, yeah, we've got to work, but there's also a caring nature amongst the team where we've all got each other's backs. And I guess that's part of where I'm trying to get to with all these youngsters, mostly, to kind of, so they know that it's not just all just hardball talk, and you can't show your emotions, you can't show your feelings. Things, can get overwhelming for all of us, whether we're young or older. And I guess that's what I try and build outside the team. So if the boys need to talk on the weekend or after hours, I'm always happy to do that.
Yeah, that's an awesome thing to have within a business. So it's good for you, that it's a compliment for you that they've got that that safety that they can talk to you. And I imagine there's your other leaders as well. Like if they don't want to talk to you, they could talk to one of them. They would have been
For sure. Yeah, it's important that there's a lot of respect in our team, not by dictatorship, but just simply because we're all a little bit more understanding, and I think that goes a long way, because I think society's changed. The goalposts have changed. When I was a young fella, when I first started working, that you just got really directed and told what to do. You never asked questions, or you'd never intimate that you might be struggling. Where now the world is different, and I think it's for the better that people are allowed to open up and have a chat, especially for young men. I think ladies have always been much more emotionally intelligent than perhaps the young blokes, and that they've always been used to voicing how they're feeling. But I think for the young guys, there's been a lot of work environments that don't foster that kind of openness about, hey, I might need a mental health day, or I need this, or I need that, or whatever it might be. And I guess I think that that's a really positive thing for us as humans, not just business people, but everyone, that young people can voice how they're really feeling. And if you can provide that environment for them, well, it is like an extended family. You know what I mean? Because there's some things that they'll talk about at work that maybe they wouldn't even talk about at home, because it's perhaps a different environment, less judgmental.
Do you have any apps that you use that help with running the business?
No, a lot of my mates run heaps of apps. I don't. We run Zero package for all our accounting stuff. I do. I use the project one monday.com. It's just like a project scheduling, fairly simple. But given that I'm 51, I'm still pretty much stuck. I run 2 diaries, and I guess I'm still very much journal driven. So I journal all day, every day, make lists up that night for the next morning. So when I wake up at 4, I don't have to worry about what it is I need to do. I can hop up, get dressed, have a cup of tea, and then look at all those things I need to do. So I'm old school. So no, not really apps, but a lot of the other trades we work with, they have scheduling apps and things like that. But yeah, probably somewhere I can improve. But at this stage, I'm stuck to the old diaries, and I've got project boards up at my desk still with the blackboard markers and black lines, and I've got little magnets on there for who's going to watch job. And so I'm still fairly very, very organic still.
I'm exactly the same, but I only just turned 40, so that's just the way some people are, I think.
Yeah.
But I make those lists for the next day, but then get completely overwhelmed and don't achieve any of them. So it's one thing to make the list, but
yeah. But at least you've made the list, right? So in your mind, you kind of already know, because once you've written it down, it's almost like it's already in there. And I guess I take it to a next level, like to make sure my mornings are okay. Like my wife calls me Rain Man, but I'll get out because I wear the same thing every day. So I'll wear my company t-shirt, my long work pants. I always wear long pants, just some cargos every single day, steel cap boots. So overnight, to make it easier in the morning, I'd set my boots up where I need to get changed. I've got a fresh shirt out. I've got my socks and undies out. I've got the pants out. So of a morning, I hop up. I'm in like autopilot. I get dressed. I do stuff, go to the bathroom. I have a cup of tea. I grab a banana, and then I go through my list. So I'm very, very regimented as far as my routine, because if I get out of my routine, I get stressed. So if I stick to my routine, and I can, even if I'm not feeling the best, or it's going to be a really shitty day, at least I've got that really solid routine to fall back on. I know what I'm wearing. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know when I just try and get those basics right just to try and help me. So then I perform better for everyone else.
Yeah, I think it was might have been Jeff Bezos or someone said that he wears the same thing every day, so because that's one less decision he has to make.
Totally. And I've been like that for probably, I wasn't just like this and here. I've probably been like that for 15 years. I know it's bad. And sometimes on the weekend, if someone sees me wearing something different, like I am today, they go, "Oh, we didn't recognize you," because they're so used to just seeing me unruly, cap on, same work clothes, usually dirty, and just looking scruffy. And then when they see you that you've got a clean shirt on and it's
It's a twin
almost like,
brother.
what? Yeah, where's this bloke? So, but like you said, I try and take the guesswork out, and wearing the same thing, eating the same thing, getting up at the same time. They're all the things that help me deal with the pressure and the stress and help keep anxiety at a reasonable level so I can function properly.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I hadn't really thought about, but it's you've got so many other things you've got to be thinking of and questioning. So you don't want to have to think, oh, what are we going to wear tomorrow? What am I going to have for tea? What am I going to eat? Like, it's just if you can reduce some of those things you've got to think about, then you can focus on the more productive things.
When I guess a bit of a thing that some people might be interested in too. When I first started this business, I actually intermittent fasted for 4 years straight. So I ate one meal a day, and I've been vegetarian now for 22 years. So I was vegetarian before it was cool to be vegetarian. And my family still all eat meat. My eldest daughter doesn't. She's veggie. She's 23. But I guess what happened for me was that if I didn't have to eat, so I got up of a morning and I have, as I said to you, go through that routine we just went through, have my green tea. I don't think about eating until I get home that night. So I would go all day on green tea and water, and I wouldn't be putting food in my mouth for 20-hour gaps at a time. And then I'd have a feeding window of a couple of hours and I'd eat like a machine. But that, as crazy as that sounds, that allowed me to extract every single minute from that day to get all those tasks done, because I wasn't thinking I need a coffee, I need a hamburger. Oh, I really like that cafe. Oh, what's my wife packed me for lunch? There's none of it. I walk out the door and it's just me and the truck, and that's it. That's all I carry. And I lost a lot of weight. So I think I probably dropped, 15, 20 kegs, and I was never a real heavy set fella anyway. And it got to the stage where people were saying, "Man, you look a bit unhealthy," because I was just so focused on what had to be done. I thought, well, eating, if it's supposed to be healthy to intermittent fast. And to be honest with you, Joel, my mental clarity when I was intermittent fasting was so clear. Like, I was so sharp. It was like I'd always had 20 cups of coffee, but I hadn't, because there was nothing in my system. So while I was trying to think about things, my body was just in a different state of maybe like a keto state, I guess they call it these days. But that's one of the things that really helped me to. There was no downtime during the day. I've never been one to go to a restaurant. We don't do fancy lunches, not even with clients. If I want to meet on site, I'm happy just to have a banana and a cup of tea, so there's no whining and dining and all that. And for those first 4 or 5 years, all I did was maximize every minute from 4 a.m. until 8 p.m. of the night. And that meant just one meal, which you'd be surprised at how much time you can save and all the other jobs you can get done. And your thinking gets better when you don't have to worry about eating. And I know I'm not saying that's good for everyone, but it did work for me. And I've started eating a couple more meals a day again. And I, to be honest, I am enjoying it. But there was a time when that was another tool I used to be obsessive, because I was that just cut, like you said, if you're not worrying about what you're wearing or what this or what that, well, cut out what you're eating. Now you're going to have one really big healthy meal of a night, keep yourself wonderfully hydrated during the day, and then everything else is open. It's just business. And it's crazy. And I got a bit of heat at home from it and from other people, but for me the results were worth being disciplined. Also, it was a little prover to myself that if something's going to get in my way to get something done, I'm willing to go without it, whether it be that too many glasses of wine or the extra coffee or the food or whatever it is. If at some point you've got to say, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to move everything out of the way that's going to inhibit me from getting to that goal in this amount of time. And then regardless how I feel, I'm just going to get up and do it. And then it's amazing the traction that you get really quick. And I guess that's, for me, that was one of the main things that drove me was also using that intermittent fasting. So
yeah, people will think it sounds crazy, but I'd do that as well. So
there you go.
Like I do it, and like you'd be amazed. Like you wouldn't think, like someone who has breakfast, lunch, and smoko, and then has each when they get home, wouldn't think that they'd be able to do it. But you'd be amazed how most of the time when you think you're hungry, you're just thirsty, so you just need to drink water. And
absolutely,
and it's so good for weight loss as well. The only bad thing for me is I find it easy to do when I'm working, but weekends are a bit of a killer for me. I'm sitting at home, the pantry's there.
Same for me. Yeah.
So I'll lose Monday to Friday. I'll lose maybe 3 kilos, and then I'll put on 4 on the weekend. So it's not like a well, but during the week, like I love it. I can easily I'll get up and not have anything, and I could get home at 5 o'clock and won't have eaten anything during the day. So and it does have positive benefits for you apparently, but but again, it's just something you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, and it's the clarity of mind that you get, and I try to explain it, and obviously you'd feel the same way. It's almost like you're caffeinated, but you're relaxed. That's what feeling when you're so empty. You feel like you can see what's going on, but you're not so upset about it, and you can act better. I don't know. It's a weird thing, and but yeah, I'm glad you're doing it too, because I think it's a tool that a lot of people use, and I think it'll probably be, it's something that I'm not saying that you should do it all the time, but it's really good, I think, to have a crack at it every now and then, especially if you're in a time when you really want to make some really good change, some positive change, and you really got some really big goals and tasks ahead of you, that just to try and streamline everything out of your way. And overeating is one of those things that, I love pasta and pizza, but if you gave me a pizza in the middle of the day, man, I wouldn't even want to go back to work.
Yeah.
So give me a pizza overnight, and then I can go to bed. So.
Yeah. One of the best things a guy who came work for us when I was an employee brought on was we didn't stop for lunch or smoko. Like if you want to, you can. Like so some days you might need to have a rest, but he brought that in. I thought, oh, that's going to be impossible. But now, stopping for half an hour in the middle of the day, just you feel like death getting up after it to get back going again.
Absolutely. And look, my young fellas, they'll fill up on a couple of hamburgers and some drinks and that, and I just, wow, I look at them and I know they burn a lot of calories, and that's great, but I look at them, especially for me at my age, and if I ate that now at 11 o'clock, that'd be it. I'd be done.
Yeah. I reckon it was 2 years ago for Christmas, because it was the last day of the year. So I thought for brekkie, I might go and get a brekkie wrap from the servo and a nice coffee. So I had that. And I just felt my guts I was in pain the whole day just because I ate something in the morning that was obviously not great for you anyway. But it just slows you down. Yeah.
Oh, look, that's good to hear, because it's nice that some of us are like-minded, and you've got a tool that costs nothing, right? Like to not eat so much it actually costs you less. So it's a win-win situation, and it's available to everyone, but it's just an unutilized tool basically to try and maximize your gains and your productivity, for me, and creativity as well. So
yeah. And you said it right at the start, but it's I love doing these chats and hearing the similarities between people. And one of the ones I hear a lot is people who are really creative, like yourself, are good at drawing as well, which I find absolutely fascinating how that link is there. So I don't know if there's any people who are really good at drawing who aren't creative as well. But
it's a good point. And you still draw yourself, Joel?
No, I'm not creative at all, so I can't draw either. So I'm good at building things.
Yeah. Well, it's like everything, I guess. From like a lot of my kids, they're just not into drawing at all. Like neither is my wife. They still, they're 20-year-old. They're still drawing stick people. But for me, I guess I was really fortunate. My mum was always she was a bit crazy, as far as she was quite artistic and a little bit hot-headed at times. So, but we would sit down and drawing was a big part of my life early as a kid. Mum was she'd sit down for hours until 2 and 3 in the morning and do a lot of hand fine black ink drawings and writing out sort of calligraphy and poetry. And that was her time. She'd wait till everyone had gone to bed, including my dad, and then she'd get the ciggies out, sit at the table, and you'd hop up in the middle of the night to go to the loo, and there's Mum with a ciggy still drawing pictures of birds and writing poems and all that. That was her creative time. And so I guess I was fortunate because with my dad didn't draw, but he wanted to build stuff, cars, houses, gardens, rock walls, whatever. And that was great. So I got that part satisfied. And then if I wanted a quiet night, Mum and I would just sit. And my brother was not interested in drawing at all, but he'd sit there and make fun of us. But I'd sit and just draw for hours with Mum. I'd even make little draw illustrated books together and bind them up. And, we were just, it was just something I fell into because I saw my mum doing it, and she used to find a lot of peace in it. Just, it's a very solitary thing. She'd have maybe a bit of music on, as I said, and a couple of ciggies, and that was her happy space. And for me, even still to this day, I still love to sketch. And sometimes if we're out, it was probably a year ago, I had a lovely client and we'd done a lot of work at their house, and I just poured a whole heap of concrete out the front because we're going to do some beautiful paved driveways. And I was in my head, while we were chatting, I was designing her new gates and pillars, and I grabbed just a piece of broken concrete, and on the new concrete sketched out her whole front, fancy gates, pillars, big antique lights, did the whole lot. And she just stood there and she just thought that was the most wonderful thing, that out of a bit of concrete, you can actually just stand there, have a conversation, and then rough something out. And then you can both stand there and look at it. And then 2 weeks later, she can stand there and it's actually real. For me, it was just normal because I was just like drawing in the sand at the beach, just, yeah, we're going to do that. But for someone looking at it from the outside in, it sort of becomes something special, where to me, it's just getting your ideas out. And I guess that's always been a way for me to, before I was big and strong enough to build so many things I wanted to do when I was younger and smaller, it was a way of still being creative and creating something nice before I was capable of, getting out on the tools.
Yeah, well, it's a perfect combination of parents having someone who's good with their hands and someone who's good with designing.
Yeah, look, as I said, Joel, I was very, very lucky, man. I spent a lot of my childhood at the tips with my dad back in the day when you could just arrive at the tip, and your dad had always come home with more souvenirs from the tip than what he dropped off. And that's how I kind of grew up. And we go back home into the garage, and Dad would have got a couple of old chairs and half a table, and he'll start working away because he's got a bit of a crazy mind too. So he needs to keep himself busy so he doesn't end up, going out on a crazy sort of way. And so I guess I kind of learned that was okay. You can find old stuff, use your brain, go, well, if I put that and that together, maybe we can make something for Mum. And I guess was pretty, yeah. So I was lucky, man. And I guess in a family that didn't have that, perhaps I wouldn't have been as creative as what I was given the opportunity to be. Because in my house that was normal, but it's probably not so normal for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad was a dry cleaner and Mum was a hairdresser, so I didn't not much creativity going on there. but
hey, look, we're all different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but my 12-year-old daughter's amazing at drawing, but she wants to be an interior designer, and I'm trying to get her outside doing landscape design so I can get her working for me. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what she goes into when she gets older.
Yeah.
Last question for you, Adam, is who do you think would be a good guest to have on this podcast?
I've probably got, just let me think for a minute. You need someone who's got the ability to open up. Now, you thinking just for the landscaping or other trades? Like, what are you thinking? Like, what type of person are you thinking?
Related to the landscaping industry. Yeah, I had garden maintenance and designers and landscape builders and some suppliers on, but
yeah. Well, I honestly think that my one of my guys, Kieran, he's my Irishman, who's the stonemason bricklayer. He is got such a funny way about him. He's got such a strong personality. He's a character. He's hard on the boys, but then loves them as well. He'd be great because he has got stories. He's worked all over the world. He's worked in the States. He's worked in Ireland. He's worked all over everywhere. And he's so funny, and he's got such a positive outlook on life, which is why him and I get along great, because he's a solution-driven man and simple in the way he likes to go about stuff. I reckon his name's Kieran. and I reckon that you guys would hit it off as long as you can understand him, because he's got a very thick Irish accent.
Well, I am an eighth generation Australian, but they're from Ireland, so it'll just be like home.
Yeah, so I reckon Kieran, because he's really honest too, bud. So you're going to get everything, even some of the things you probably don't want, he's going to tell you.
It sounds awesome. I'd love that. That'd be great.
Easy, man.
All right. I absolutely loved having this chat with you, Adam. As soon as I saw that video you put on your Instagram, I knew it was going to be an awesome episode, and you've certainly come through with the good. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Pleasure, Joel. And yeah, I just want to say big thanks. And yeah, look, I wish you and everyone watching and everyone in our tough game all the best. And it's all a bloody journey. So let's stick together and just try and work our way through it, day by day. So all good. Thanks, man.